Today we'll be discussing epithelial tissue as it pertains to Biology 161, Anatomy and Physiology. First, we should start with the definition of histology. Histology is the microscopic study of tissue appearance, organization, and function. It is concerned with the makeup and structure of tissues in conjunction with their specific functions. This is not a microscopic anatomy class. Microscopic anatomy, which can be confused for histology, focuses more on tissues when they are arranged in larger contexts such as organs and organ systems. Let's start with body tissue types. There are four main types of body tissues that are discussed in anatomy and physiology. First is nervous tissue. This allows for the transport of electrical signals between different areas of the body. This is found in the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. Next, we have muscle tissue, which is able to contract to provide movement. It is defined in three subtypes: cardiac, skeletal, and smooth. Next, we have connective tissue. Think of it like a binding agent for almost every piece of your body. It is defined into three separate subtypes: connective tissue proper, supportive connective tissue, and fluid connective tissue. In this session, we will only be discussing connective tissue proper. Lastly is epithelial tissue. This is sheets of cells that cover almost every area of the body. It is highly cellular with a basement membrane and can be defined as simple, stratified, or glandular. First, let's talk about the functions of epithelial tissue. It is the first line of protection against dangers because it controls the permeability of the body and selectively allows the transfer of materials across a physical barrier. They are the best gatekeepers. All substances that enter the body must cross some form of the epithelium. And what's actually very interesting about epithelia is that some are built with structural features that allow specific molecules and ions through their cell membranes, and many can secrete mucus or specific chemical compounds on their apical, which is their closest to the outside surfaces. One specific example is goblet cells, which are found in the respiratory tract and secrete mucus that traps incoming invaders. So what are the major characteristics of epithelial tissue? Well, we describe epithelial tissue by their shape and their layers. When describing their shape, it is either squamous, which is fried egg shape, flattened and skinny, like this. There is cuboidal, which is boxy, like a cube. And there is columnar, which is rectangular and taller than they are wide, like a skyscraper. When defining epithelial tissue by their layers, there is simple, which is one layer of cells lying on top of the basement membrane, stratified, which is more than one layer lying on top of the basement membrane, like a pile, and pseudostratified. This is a single layer of irregularly shaped cells on top of the basement membrane that makes it look like it's stratified. Here we have specific types of epithelial tissues. There is simple squamous, which is present where the rapid passage of chemical compounds is needed, such as the lungs. There is simple cuboidal, which is an active participant in the secretion and absorption of molecules, like in the kidney. We have simple columnar, which is also active in the secretion and absorption of molecules, but can have cilia on their apical surfaces to assist in the movement of particular matter. Next, we have pseudostratified, which here is seen as pseudostratified columnar. This is found in the respiratory tracts with goblet and ciliated cells. And we also have stratified, which can be seen right here. We will not be discussing transitional. Stratified protects against physical and chemical damage because of the increasing amount of layers in between the apical surface and the basement membrane. And what's not on here, but we will also be discussing, is glandular. These cells are modified to synthesize and secrete chemical substances and can be defined as exocrine or endocrine. First, let's talk about exocrine glands. These release their contents through the use of ducts. The contents that they create can be mucus, sweat, saliva, breast milk, and specifically in the pancreas can be exocrine, but also endocrine. Pancreas's exocrine definition would be that it secretes pancreatic juice. Next, we have endocrine glands. They secrete hormones, but do not have ducts. Their hormones are secreted into the bloodstream and sent to target cells. These glands can be the adrenal glands, the ovaries, and the testes, but also the pancreas since it produces insulin. Next, we'll talk about loose versus dense connective tissue, which is under the category connective tissue proper. Now let's first talk about the cells within connective tissue proper. The most abundant cell is a fibroblast that secretes three main types of protein fibers, which are collagen, which is long and straight and holds the connective tissues together with its great tensile strength. Elastic protein fibers contain the protein elastin, obviously, and when stretched or compressed, it will turn to its original shape, kind of like a rubber band. Lastly, we have reticular cells, which are reticular protein, which are narrow in range in a branching network, which helps anchor and provide structural and support. There are also adipocytes, which store lipids as droplets within the cytoplasm, and mesenchymal cells. These are adult stem cells specialized for transformation into a connective tissue cell for repair. Now let's talk about the loose and dense. Loose connective tissue acts to absorb shock and binds tissues together, and is composed of three types, which are adipose, areolar, and reticular. Dense connective tissue is where fibers are densely packed together to provide strong support and contains more collagen fibers than loose connective tissue, and are defined as dense regular or dense irregular. Now, talking about loose connective tissue, we have the three subtypes: areolar, adipose, and reticular. Areolar shows very little specialization and contains all the cell types as discussed in the previous slide. The cell types are arranged in a random web-like pattern, and it fills the spaces between muscle fibers. It supports organs, and surrounds blood and lymph vessels. This is the main connective tissue component of epithelial membranes. Next, we have adipose tissue. This contains mostly adipocytes with little extracellular matrix. It has a large number of capillaries to allow for the rapid storage and mobilization of lipid molecules. Lastly, we have reticular tissue. This is composed in a mesh-like organization, and it supports soft organs such as lymphatic tissue, the spleen, and the liver. When talking about dense connective tissue, there are two types, regular and irregular. With regular connective tissue, the structure only allows for enhanced tensile strength and resistance only in the direction of the fibers because they are parallel to each other. This is found in the ligaments and tendons. With irregular connective tissue, there's a random direction of fibers, which allows for greater tensile strength in all directions, but less strength in one specific direction. This is mostly found in the dermis of the skin. Now, one specific part of epithelial tissue is epithelial membranes. And this is a thin layer of cells that covers many different areas of the body. It's a layer of epithelium attached to a layer of connective tissue, as shown here. There is a basement membrane in between, kind of like a sandwich. This can cover the outside of the body, which is your skin. It covers organs. There's internal passages that lead to the exterior of the body that have epithelial membranes, and it lines movable joint cavities. Lastly, there's the function of epithelial membranes, which is the first line of defense with protection. Secretion can be seen in the esophagus as well as the stomach with the secretion of stomach acid, and the absorption of nutrients as seen through the intestines. These are the sources used for my presentation.